It was 5:30 on a cold, wet November evening when my boss came to me with a new task.
Call the send point. You'll get your list of suspects.
I went down to the docks only to find that the client I was looking for worked differently than what I was used to. Maybe this was a good thing. I was tired of empty promises anyway. He pointed me to this place called RxJS, so I went there to investigate further. It didn't seem like much at first, not too crowded, not too big. Little did I knew I was going to become a regular. This is where I met her, the observable. She gave you everything you ever wanted. You didn't have to pull it out of her. At a table, behind me, was a strange-looking character. I later found out he was the observer. He had the answers to the 3 questions that bothered me. What do you do with the stuff? What if there's a problem? And what do you do when it's all finished? I grabbed a coffee, then went back to the office to start working on the problem. Following the notes I took, I created a service that made the call using the HTTP client. Then I injected that service in my component. I subscribed to the data and passed it to a variable. From there I went on to consume it in my template. I knew it wasn't clean, but at least it worked. I went home that night still bothered by the fact that I had to manually subscribe to the observable. I knew this meant that later on I will have to remember to unsubscribe. I just wished that there was a way it could do it by itself, but maybe this was nothing more than a pipe dream. When I got to the office the next day, my boss was waiting for my solution. He wasn't very pleased and told me I have to redo it.
I also wanted you to create a second component that uses the same data. Oh, and for God's sake, use an async pipe.
I was glad I got the problem of manually subscribing off my chest, but I knew I had a new one now. With more components that needed the same data, I had to find a solution where I could broadcast the results to all my subscribers, regardless of who made the request. This meant going back to RxJS. I sat down at the bar thinking, I need something that can take in but also emit data, something that can be both an observer and an observable. Next thing I knew, the answer presented itself.
I'm the subject you're looking for.
He was right. You could feed him data, then have him act like an observable that could multicast to many observers. I had a good feeling about this, so I went back to refactor my solution. I created a suspects list subject and fed him the data I got from the HTTP call. I then created a suspects list observable from that subject and passed it to the components that needed the results of the call. It was finally over. I got the approval from my boss later that evening, yet I wasn't feeling any better. This case raised more questions than it answered. Like, what were all those operators for? Or why were there so many types of subjects? I knew I had to tie all those loose ends, but now a new problem was afoot.